Pip's Big Adventure. Once upon a time, in a lush green forest filled with towering trees and vibrant flowers, there lived a tiny bird named Pip. Pip was a small bird with bright blue wings that shimmered in the sunlight when he dared to spread them. He lived in a cozy nest high up in a tall oak tree, surrounded by friends who filled his days with laughter and play. The forest was a magical place where animals of all kinds, rabbits, deer, foxes, and birds, lived in harmony, exploring the winding paths and hidden clearings together. Pip's best friends were Ollie the wise owl and Squeak the cheerful squirrel. Ollie was an old owl with soft gray feathers and big round eyes that seemed to see everything. He was known throughout the forest for his wisdom and calm demeanor, always ready to offer advice or tell a story about the days when the forest was young. Squeak, on the other hand, was a bundle of energy with a bushy red tail and a love for adventure. He spent his days climbing trees, leaping from branch to branch, and exploring every corner of the forest. Despite their differences, Pip, Ollie, and Squeak were inseparable, their friendship a bright thread woven into the fabric of forest life. But Pip had a secret, one he kept hidden even from his closest friends. He was terrified of flying. While the other birds in the forest, like the sparrows, robins, and even the tiny wrens, soared through the sky with ease, Pip stayed close to his nest, his little heart pounding at the thought of leaving the safety of its twigs and leaves. He would perch on the edge, watching his friends glide through the air, their wings cutting through the breeze as they laughed and called to one another. Pip longed to join them, to feel the wind lift him up and carry him high above the treetops, but fear held him back like an invisible chain. One sunny morning, the forest was alive with the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves. Pip sat in his nest, his blue wings tucked tightly against his sides, watching as Ollie and Squeak played below. Ollie swooped down from a high branch, his wings spread wide, while Squeak darted up a nearby tree, chattering excitedly. The sky was a brilliant blue, dotted with fluffy white clouds, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, making them dance in the sunlight. "Pip, why don't you come fly with us?" Ollie called, landing softly beside Pip's nest. His voice was gentle, as always, and his eyes twinkled with kindness. "The sky is so beautiful today, and the breeze is perfect for flying." Pip shook his head, his feathers ruffling nervously. "I can't, Ollie," he said, his voice small. "I'm too little, and the sky is too big. What if I fall?" Ollie tilted his head, studying Pip with his wise gaze. "Pip, everyone is scared at first," he said. "I was too when I was a young owlet, but you have wings, and they're strong. You just need to believe in yourself." Squeak scampered up to join them, balancing on a thin branch with his usual fearless grin. "Yeah, Pip," he said, his tail flicking with excitement. "You're braver than you think. Remember last week when you helped me find my lost acorn? I'd looked everywhere, but you spotted it under that big fern. That took courage." Pip smiled at the memory. He had been proud of himself that day, scurrying along the ground with Squeak until they found the shiny acorn hidden in the undergrowth. But flying? That was different. "That wasn't the same," he said quietly. It's just too scary." Ollie and Squeak exchanged a look, their friendship with Pip strong enough that they knew when to stop pushing. They didn't want him to feel pressured, so they let the matter drop. "All right, Pip," Ollie said with a nod. "We'll be here when you're ready." And with that, they returned to their games, making sure Pip felt included even if he stayed in his nest. Days turned into weeks, and life in the forest went on as it always had. Pip found joy in other things. He sang sweet songs with the other birds, their voices blending into a melody that echoed through the trees. He helped Squeak gather nuts, carrying them in his beak to store in hollow logs. And he listened to Ollie's tales of the forest's past, like the time a great storm had bent the tallest trees, or when a family of deer had welcomed a fawn with spots like stars. Pip was happy, even if he couldn't fly, and the forest wrapped him in its familiar embrace. But one day, everything changed. It was a bright and sunny afternoon, the kind where the sunlight filtered through the leaves in golden patches, painting the forest floor with light and shadow. Squeak, full of his usual daring spirit, decided to climb the tallest tree in the forest, a giant pine that stretched so high its top seemed to brush the clouds. Its bark was rough and weathered, its branches thick and strong, but even for Squeak, it was a challenge. "Pip, Ollie, look at me!" Squeak shouted from halfway up the tree, his voice ringing out over the forest. "I'm going to reach